You pull into that automatic wash, you hand over your $9, and you sit back while the giant brushes swallow your car whole. You think you are protecting your paint. You think you are doing the responsible thing. I thought the exact same thing for almost 30 years, and I was dead wrong. Here is what I found. Those washes are not cleaning your car. They are slowly grinding down the very finish you paid thousands of dollars to keep. And the proof is sitting on your hood right now, in the sunlight, if you know how to look for it. I only figured this out because of something I watched an old Amish man do in Holmes County, Ohio, with nothing but 2 buckets and a bar of soap. By the end of this, I am going to hand you a 200-year-old finishing trick I dug out of an old carriage maker's record, something you can do this weekend in your own driveway, with things already sitting under your kitchen sink. It works on the car you own today, parked exactly where it sits right now. But it started with a mystery I could not let go of. It was a Saturday morning, and my neighbor's grandson had just washed my car as a favor. He ran it through the fancy tunnel wash down the road, the one with the soft-touch cloth strips they swear are gentle. The car came out gleaming. I was happy. Then the sun came out from behind a cloud, and I walked past the driver's door at an angle, and I stopped cold. The whole panel was covered in fine, circular scratches, hundreds of them, little spiderwebs catching the light, swirling in every direction. I ran my finger across the paint and felt nothing, smooth as glass, but my eyes told me the truth. That shine I loved was actually a field of tiny cuts, and every single one of them was catching the sun. I told myself it was a fluke. I told myself the paint was old. But something nagged at me, because I had seen a finish that did not do that. I had seen black paint so deep and clean it looked wet, and it belonged to a man who had never taken a car through a machine in his life. So I started digging, and what I found made me angry that nobody had ever told me. Let me back up and tell you about the finish that started all this, because the first door I opened led straight to a buggy shop. A few years back I spent a good stretch of time up in Holmes County, which is the largest Amish settlement in the world, bigger even than Lancaster. I was there for other reasons, but I got to know a harness maker and through him, a man who built and repaired buggies. Now the Amish there do not drive cars, but their black buggies have a finish on them that would embarrass a luxury dealership. Deep even, mirror black, no swirls, no haze. One afternoon I watched this buggy man clean one, and I want you to picture this, because it is the opposite of everything you have been taught. He did not spray it down and scrub in circles. He had 2 buckets, one with soapy water, one with plain rinse water. He worked from the top down. He never once scrubbed back and forth. He pulled his cloth in long, straight lines, top to bottom, and after every few pulls, he dunked the cloth in the plain water first, then reloaded it with soap. I asked him why the 2 buckets. He looked at me like I had asked why the sky was up. He said, and I will never forget it, the dirt you take off is the same dirt that scratches. If you put it back in your soap, you are rubbing the road right back into the finish. That sentence rattled around in my head for years. I did not understand how important it was until I stood in that sunlight looking at the ruin of my own hood. Because here is the thing nobody tells you. Dirt is not soft. Road grime is mostly fine grit, silica, tiny particles of sand and stone and metal. Under a microscope, every speck has sharp edges. When you drag that across paint, you are dragging sandpaper. The buggy man knew it. He kept the grit and the paint separated by 2 buckets of water. That is the whole secret to his mirror finish, separation. But that only raised a bigger question. If a simple 2-bucket method with a rag beats a $9 machine, then what in the world is that machine actually doing to my car? So I looked into the machines, and this is where the story stops being about buggies and starts being about your money. I found the research. Back in the middle of the 1999 model year, the engineers at the Mercedes-Benz paint laboratory in Germany ran a now famous test. They wanted to know what actually scratches automotive clear coat. So they took brand new painted panels and ran them through different washing methods over and over, hundreds of cycles, mimicking years of ownership. And then they measured how much gloss was lost and how deep the scratches went. The results were brutal. The automatic brush washes, the ones with the spinning bristles, tore up the finish the fastest. But here is the part that stunned me. Even the newer softcloth washes, the ones marketed as touchless and gentle, still left measurable swirl marks, because the cloth strips drag across your car, carrying the grit and grime from every single car that went through before you. Think about that. That soft cloth touching your paint just wiped down the filthy pickup truck ahead of you. Every bit of sand and brake dust and gravel from that truck is now embedded in the strip, and then it is dragged across your hood at speed. It is not washing your car, it is polishing it with someone else's dirt. And it gets worse, because of the water. I called a fellow who used to run maintenance at one of these tunnel washes, and he told me something that made my stomach turn. Most of these places recycle their water. They have to keep costs down and meet local usage rules. That means the water blasting your undercarriage and rinsing your panels has been filtered, sure, but not to the level you would think. Fine sediment stays suspended in it, so even the rinse, the part that is supposed to clean, can be spraying a mist of microscopic grit across your finish. Now I understood the swirl marks. It was not a fluke. It was the machine doing exactly what a machine does. And I had paid for the privilege, over and over, for decades. But I still had not answered the real question. Because scratches are ugly, sure. The nag in the back of my mind was bigger than ugly. I kept asking myself, what is this actually costing me? Not in vanity, in dollars. And that answer floored me. Let me tell you what those little scratches really do, because it is not just about looks. Your car's paint is not one layer. It is several. Down at the bottom is bare metal. On top of that, primer. On top of that, the color coat, the part you actually see as red or blue or black. And on top of all of it sits the clear coat, a thin, transparent shell, usually less than 2/1000ths of an inch thick. That clear coat is the only thing standing between your color and the sun, the rain, the salt, and the air. Every swirl mark is a tiny cut into that clear coat. One cut, no big deal. But hundreds of thousands of cuts, added up wash after wash, year after year, and you have worn that shell thin. And once the clear coat fails, the sun gets into the color coat, and that is when you see it. The roof goes chalky. The hood fades and peels. The paint literally lifts off in sheets. I looked up what a full repaint costs on an ordinary sedan today. A cheap one, the kind that will not even match, runs around $2,000. A proper repaint that actually holds up, $3,000 to $5,000, sometimes more on a bigger vehicle, and a faded, clear coat failed car loses thousands more the day you try to sell it or trade it in. Nobody wants a car with a chalky roof. So let us add it up honestly. Say you wash twice a month at $9. That is over $200 a year, every year, handed to a machine that is actively shortening the life of your finish. 15 years of ownership and you have paid more than $3,000 to slowly destroy an asset, and then you pay again to fix the destruction. You are paying to break your own car and paying again to repair it. That is when it hit me who benefits from you never learning this. And I will be honest with you, this is the part that made me sit down and start writing. The whole system is built so that you never do it yourself. Think about how hard it has become to just wash your own car in peace. Many neighborhoods and apartment complexes now have rules against washing cars in the driveway or lot. Water restrictions in a lot of towns push you toward the commercial wash, which gets an exemption because it recycles. Convenience culture sold us the monthly unlimited membership, that little sticker on your windshield. So the money leaves your account automatically and you never even think about it. You just drive through, again and again, grinding down your paint on autopilot. Nobody is twisting your arm. That is the clever part. They just made the wrong thing easy and the right thing feel like a chore, and they let your own busy life do the rest. The buggy man in Holmes County was never sold any of that. He kept his 2 buckets and his straight strokes, and his finish outlived every machine-washed car on the road. But knowing the problem is only half of it. I needed to know exactly how to do it right, because I did not want to trade the machine for a driveway full of my own swirl marks, and that search is what led me to the part of this that I most want you to hear. Now I want to talk directly to you, because I know what you are thinking right now. You are thinking, that is fine for an Amish man with all day and a barn full of tools, but I am 70 years old, I live in a regular house, my knees are not what they were, and I am not about to turn into some car detailing fanatic. I hear you. I thought the same thing. So let me show you how simple this actually is, using only things you already own, in the time it takes to watch one television program. Before I show you what that machine's own water is doing to your paint, I want to stop for a second, because if this 2-bucket truth hit you the way it hit me, there is a whole lot more where it came from. You have been handing your car to a machine that quietly grinds it down, and paying a monthly toll to do it. There is a way to stop that for good, and I put every piece of it in writing. It is a small collection of digital books, Plain Wisdom, Amish Depth, and the Amish Blueprint, along with printable checklists you can pin up in the garage. Inside, you get the 5 plain habits that add years to a car most folks trade in too early. No special tools, doable this week. You get which so-called must-buy specialty bottles are pure marketing, and the one honest thing that does the same job for pennies. You get a plain language script for talking to any mechanic, so you walk in informed and walk out without the upsell. And you get a month-by-month system, so nothing sneaks up on you as a $400 surprise. Here is a free test you can run tonight, before you spend a dime. Go pour 2 buckets. Wash one dirty panel the 2-bucket way I just showed you. Then look at that panel in the sun, at an angle the way I did. If it throws back a cleaner shine than the machine ever gave you, you already know these books are telling you the truth. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description, or the pinned comment. And this matters year-round, because that grit is riding your paint every single winter with the road salt, and every summer with the sun, whether you act on it or not. Now let me show you exactly what that recycled water is doing behind the scenes. You need 2 buckets. Any 2 buckets from the garage. Fill one with your wash soap and water. Fill the other with plain water, just for rinsing your cloth. If you want to do one thing that changes everything, drop a cheap plastic grit guard, or honestly even an upside-down colander, into the bottom of each bucket. That little grate keeps the grit that sinks to the bottom from getting stirred back up onto your cloth. That is the whole trick the buggy man was doing by feel. For soap, do not run out and buy expensive car shampoo if you do not want to. A capful of gentle dish soap works for an occasional wash, though the old-timers would tell you a mild soap is kinder to any wax you have on there. Use a soft wash mitt if you have one, but a clean, soft cotton cloth, an old cotton shirt, works fine too. Here is the method, and I want you to do it exactly this way. First, rinse the whole car with a hose to knock off the loose grit before you ever touch it with anything. This one step alone prevents most scratching. Never, ever start scrubbing a dry, dirty car. That is dragging sandpaper. Then wash from the top down. The roof is cleanest, the lower panels are filthiest, so you always work clean to dirty. Load your mitt with soap, and here is the buggy man's rule. Wipe in straight lines, front to back or top to bottom, never in circles. Circles are exactly how you create swirl marks. Straight strokes leave straight scratches so fine you will never see them, but circles catch light from every angle and glare. After every panel, dunk your mitt in the plain rinse bucket first to release the grit, then reload it with soap. Rinse, reload, wash. Rinse, reload, wash. 2 buckets. That is the entire secret that beats a $9 machine. Do the lower rocker panels and the area behind the wheels absolutely last, with a separate cloth if you can, because that is where the worst grit lives. Then rinse the whole car top to bottom. You just washed your car the way that harness makers' finish stayed mirror black for 20 years. No membership, no machine, no swirl marks. Maybe 30 minutes, sitting or standing at your own pace, in your own driveway. And you kept your $200 a year in your own pocket. But washing is only half the story. Because getting the car clean without scratching it is one thing. Keeping it that way, protecting that finish so the sun and salt cannot get in, that is where I found the real buried treasure. And it did not come from a store. It came from a book older than the automobile itself. Here is where my investigation took the turn I never expected. I got obsessed with how the old finishes lasted. Not just Amish buggies, but the whole world of horse-drawn carriages before cars existed. Because a fine carriage in the 1800s had a finish that took weeks to build and had to survive years of rain, mud, and blazing sun with no garage. How on earth did they protect it? So I went looking in the old records, and I found what I was after in the writings of the carriage trade, the coachmakers, going back to a manual on carriage painting and varnishing from the 1870s. These men were the paint scientists of their day. A top coach finish had as many as a dozen or more hand-rubbed coats, and the very last thing they did, the step that made it last, was the part that got completely forgotten when spray guns and factories took over. They protected the finish with a hand-rubbed wax and oil treatment. And the secret was not just what they used, it was how they put it on, and more importantly, how they rinsed and dried. Let me give you the 2 pieces, because together they are the finale, and you can do both this weekend. The first piece is the final rinse, and this is the trick almost nobody knows. When you finish rinsing your clean car, take the spray nozzle off the end of the hose. Let the water flow out in a slow, gentle flood, no pressure, and run that sheet of water over the car starting at the roof. Because the paint is clean and, if you have waxed it, slightly slick, the water gathers into a broad sheet and slides off the panels in one motion, carrying almost every drop with it. It sheets off instead of beating up. You will be amazed. The car comes out nearly dry, with hardly a water spot in sight, because water spots are just dried minerals, and if the water rolls off before it dries, it cannot leave a spot. That means you barely have to touch the car with a towel, and every time you touch a car you risk a scratch. The less rubbing, the better the finish. The old coachmakers understood this. They wanted the water gone with the least possible contact. Sheet it off, blot the few remaining beads with a soft cotton towel by patting, not dragging, and you are done. The second piece is the protection, and this is straight out of that old carriage tradition. After the car is clean and dry, you protect it with a wax, the way they hand-rub their final coats. Now you can use a good paste wax from the store, and I do. But the principle the coachmakers left us is the one that matters. A protected surface is a slick surface, and a slick surface does not hold grit, does not hold water, and does not let the sun bite into the color. That thin layer of wax is the same job the clear coat does, except you can renew it any time for a few dollars, instead of paying thousands to replace paint the machine wore away. Apply it the same way you washed. Thin coat, straight lines, let it haze, buff it off gently with a soft cloth. Twice a year is plenty, spring and fall. That is the whole ritual that kept a carriage finish alive through decades of weather, with no garage and no machine, preserved in an 1870s coach painter's manual, quietly waiting all this time for somebody to pick it back up. Think about what that means. The knowledge to keep a finish flawless for decades existed and was written down over 150 years ago. Then the factories and the spray guns and the automatic washes came along, and all of that patient hand knowledge got shoved aside as old-fashioned, too slow, not worth the trouble. But it never stopped working. Men like that buggy maker in Holmes County just kept doing it, quietly, the way their fathers taught them, while the rest of us lined up to pay a machine to scratch our cars. And now you have it too. 2 buckets, straight strokes, a sheeting rinse with the nozzle off, and a twice-a-year coat of wax. That is the entire secret. Let me tell you what happened when I finally did it myself. I took my scratched-up car, the one that started all this, and I did not repaint it. I could not undo the swirls that 15 years of machines had ground in, not without a proper polishing, which is a story for another day. But I washed it the 2-bucket way. I rinsed it with the nozzle off and watched the water sheet away like magic. I laid down 1 thin coat of wax by hand, straight lines, top to bottom, the way the buggy man moved his cloth. And when the sun came out from behind the clouds that afternoon, I walked past the driver's door at that same angle that had broken my heart weeks before. The swirls were still there, faint, the old damage, but the panel had a depth to it I had not seen since the car was new. The wax filled and hid the fine marks. The surface threw back a clean, wet-looking shine, and the water from a passing sprinkler was rolling off in fat beads instead of soaking in. I had spent decades, and I would guess close to $3,000, handing my car to machines that were quietly destroying it, when the answer was 2 buckets, a soft cloth, and a rinse trick from a book written before my grandfather was born. That is what got me. Not the money, though the money stings. It is that the good way was never lost. It was just sitting there, unglamorous and cheap and patient, while I was sold the expensive way that made everything worse. That is the emotional core I want to leave you with. You have not been failing to keep your car nice. You have been doing exactly what you were told, by people who profit when you keep coming back. The moment you take those 2 buckets out to your own driveway, you take something back that was quietly taken from you. The ability to care for what you own, with your own 2 hands, without asking a machine's permission or paying its toll. And that is really who you are, isn't it? You are the kind of person who would rather understand how a thing works than hand it blindly to a machine. You trust your own hands and a bit of proven old sense over a shiny sticker on your windshield and a monthly charge you forgot you were paying. That instinct is not stubbornness. It is wisdom, the same wisdom that harness maker never lost. So here is what I want you to do for me. Go look at your car right now, in the sunlight, at an angle, the way I did that Saturday morning. Look for those fine circular swirls catching the light on your hood or your door. Then come back and tell me in the comments what you found. Did you see the spiderwebs? Were they as bad as mine, or worse? And tell me this too, how many years have you been running your car through that machine, and roughly what you think you have spent? I read every one of them, and I think seeing those numbers written out is going to wake a lot of people up. While you are at it, tell me where you are watching from. I love seeing how far this old knowledge is traveling. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, the real methods, the ones that got buried under convenience and marketing, then come along with me. This is not about supporting a channel. It is about a group of us, more every day, digging these forgotten things back up and putting them to work in ordinary modern homes. Because next I am going after something that lives right in your kitchen. There is an old Amish way to keep food fresh for weeks without a refrigerator running up your electric bill. And when I found out how simple it was, I felt the same anger I felt about those car washes. I will show you exactly how it works and where it came from in the next one. Bring your 2 buckets. I will bring the next mystery. Before you go, one last thing. Inside my membership, the Plain Living Circle, I pick up right where this video ends and walk you through that finishing method step by step. In there you can ask me your own question, and I answer you myself. No machine. Folks like you already belong here with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel any time with one click. Now that you know what those washes can do, let me show you something even better. Next up, some simple old Amish tricks with a everyday spray can that protect your car and save you real money. It's starting right here.